Good morning. Good morning. May I have your attention? Dear guests, dear participants, just to inform you that we will start the conference with 10-15 minutes delay. The Cardinal has an important meeting at the Curia, and then he will join us. So we will start with some delay. Welcome again. Good. So we will give it in the afternoon, like this. Okay. I can help you during lunch.
parler en français. Ça, tu voulais lancer, tu veux. Ah, molto piacere. Ui, ciao, ciao.
On va commencer là. Il est là. Yes, we'll start. Good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias. Bonjour. Buongiorno. Dear Chancellor, dear rectors, dear presidents, dear colleagues, dear friends, we are very pleased to welcome you here at LUMSA University in Rome to celebrate together the first centenary anniversary of the International Federation of Catholic University. It's an honor to have you on board for this historical moment. 100 years, it's in the same time a young age and an old age. And during these 2 days, we will have the possibility to dialogue, to discuss together about important topic, key topic and challenges that are facing our university. And to start this inaugural session, we are pleased to welcome the rector of LUMSA University, Professor Bonini, and the president of the International Federation of Catholic University, and the rector of the Catholic University of Portugal, Dr. Isabel Capello Agil.
Good morning and welcome to LUMSA, Libera Università Maria Santissima Assunta. I thank and greet, together with all of you, our President Isabel, who right in this place opened the celebrations for the 8th anniversary of our university, now several years ago, before the pandemic, which represent a kind of watershed in our recent collective experience. On that occasion, we held the solemn inauguration of the academic year in the Paul VI Hall at the presence of Pope Francis, who gave us a speech in which he once again emphasized the characteristic of a Catholic university, where the adjective Catholic makes the noun university more demanding. A Catholic university is a university that wants to push itself to the best of its capabilities in the concrete interest of each person and everyone inside and outside the academy. We all share this commitment, and that stand out in this 100th anniversary of FIUC, which is in fact precisely a jubilee. By a happy coincidence, the hall in which we will gather this afternoon is titled Jubilee Hall, because it hosted the press room of the great jubilee of the year 2000. But more importantly, because the space some photograph and summarize that can and should be an attitude of Christians and consequently of our institution, a jubilant attitude. This little campus alongside the so-called Passetto, symbolizing what we like so much, the encounter, the dialogue, and the mutual enhancement between the old and the new, the past and the present, looking toward the future. Built from the year 1227 onwards on a section of the Leonine walls, built after 180 to defend the Vatican complex from the Saracens, the Passetto was meant to ensure for the Pope the possibility to take refuge in the fortified system of Castel Sant'Angelo. And it was the case in 1527, in the occasion of the sack of Rome. Without insisting any longer on this metaphor, we can see in the architecture around us one of the signs of that movement, extroversion, and dialogue that we are interested in. A jubilee, the one of FIUC, on the vigil of that of the Catholic Church next year, with an extraordinary effective team, Pilgrims of Hope, is a jubilee on the move, looking for persuasive paths of relationship with a complicated and very interesting world. These paths are traced with the eyes, the ears, and the minds of our students. After all, we are an institution of service, dear colleagues. Our university itself was born through the initiative of our founder, Luigi Tincani, in close relationships with the Vicariate of Rome and the Congregation for Catholic Education in 1939, at the beginning of a devastating war, in order to train teachers, especially religious women, outside the control of the fascist regime. It was born as an autonomous institution because our older sister, the Catholic University of Sacred Heart in Milan, did not see itself fit to take charge an initiative in Rome. This identity of service pushes all our institutions to be rich in content, very attentive to all repository of knowledge and inspiration, and plastic, snappy, ready, and agile to be able to offer in the world today, without boundaries, a quality service. Our thought, this endeavor is best accomplished in communion of purpose and exchange of resources, as in the spirit of the FIUC. I wish you a fruitful work. Welcome to LUMSA, and benvenuti a Roma, and happy anniversary to us all.
Eminences, Excellencies, Chancellors, Rectors, Presidents, Vice-Chancellors of Catholic Universities, past Presidents of IFCU, present Secretary General and past Secretary Generals of the Association, dear colleagues, dear sisters and brothers. I would like to start by thanking our host, Professor Francesco Bonini, and LUMSA for once again hosting us at this wonderful aula, at an institution that is nodal to the work of knowledge within the scope of the Catholic University, of the European Catholic Universities and of the Catholic Universities worldwide. And as always, it's a very generous cooperation that LUMSA has with IFCU. Thank you very much for hosting us here today. We are gathered in Rome today to celebrate an anniversary. We are gathered in Rome to honor the vision of those who came before us and dare to create a coalition of goodwill amongst distinct partner universities, diverse in their mission and reality, united in their pursuit of knowledge and commitment to the advancement of science and education. We are gathered today to celebrate the future. 1924 was a watershed moment. Barely rising from the ashes of the First World War, Europe was reeling from the political, social, and economic aftermath of the conflict, as some already anticipated the smoke of future clashes. But this was also the year when astronomer Edwin Hubble announced the discovery that ours, the Milky Way, our galaxy, was just one of many galaxies that compose the universe. When Thomas Mann published my favorite novel, The Magic Mountain, and André Breton announced the first Surrealist Manifesto. In Brazil, the poet Osvaldo de Andrade published the Manifesto of Poesia Pau Brasil, where he calls for a new poeticization of the world, drawn from the vernacular aesthetics of Brazilian poetry, no longer a space of import of European trends, but a poetic outlet of export of a distinct Brazilian and South American sentiment. These events are cases in point of a time of seismic transformation and tensional anxiety, pivoting around political instability drawn from the rise of authoritarianism in Russia, in Italy, in Germany. This is also the year of the so-called beer hall putsch, coupled with tremendous creative energy of the many modernist movements around the world. An unavoidable sensation of transition was epitomized in the famous verse from William Butler Yeats' Second Coming, where he writes, "Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world." It is not anarchy that springs forth on August 11, 1924, the date of the Constitutional Assembly that may be broadly defined as the inception of what is today called the International Federation of Catholic Universities. Born from the heart of the Church, a Catholic university is located in that course of tradition which may be traced back to the very origin of the university as an institution. It has always been recognized as an incomparable center of creativity and dissemination of knowledge for the good of humanity. By vocation, the Universitas Magistrorum et Scholarium is dedicated to research, to teaching, and to the education of students who freely associate with their teachers in a common love of knowledge. Quote end. The opening statement of the Apostolic Constitution, Ex Corde Ecclesiae, from 1990, entails a preposition that most of us know by heart. Allow me to dwell briefly on the meaning of this expression. Disparaged by recent strands of avant-garde pedagogy, learning by heart represents an effective attachment rather than an oblivious and unreflective repetition of a formula or statement. An attachment that is not simply emotional, but cognitive as well, binding the learner to the wisdom of what is learned. It is no small thing, then, to learn by heart, and particularly so when what is learned refers to a reality, the university, cultivated from the very heart of the Church in St. John Paul II's felicitous formulation. Born from the heart of the Church, the Catholic University is inalienably bound to the mission of the Universal Church as an instrument to advance the cause of humankind through the pursuit of knowledge. The university convenes the pilgrims of knowledge, as Pope Francis so wonderfully said in the address to the students in Lisbon during World Youth Day. It shapes a journey that is freely embraced by the joyful community of students and educators joined together in the common purpose to work for the betterment of society, laboring for social justice and promoting the capacity to aspire. There is a tremendous wisdom in something I learned this summer, an Australian Aboriginal creation myth that tells how the ancestors, the Wandjina, walked the surface of the earth and created the landscape as they went. Creation entails movement, dislocation. Universities support the movement of creation. They are platforms that prepare for the journey of transformation. And what a tremendous journey it has been. The birth of the European University almost 1,000 years ago marked a significant turning point in the history of education, paving the way for the development of institutions that would shape the intellectual landscape for centuries to come. Guided by the principles of faith, universities played a crucial role in this transformative journey. Throughout history, Catholic universities have been at the forefront of scientific, literary, and artistic advancements. We can say that at the origin, all universities were Catholic. If legacy institutions like the University of Paris, the University of Bologna, Oxford, Coimbra, and Salamanca became renowned centers of learning, nurturing generations of scholars who made significant contributions to various fields, it is wise to remember that they were all at one stage Catholic, both in terms of values, as of the breadth of disciplines cultivated in the sense of the Greek Catholicos, universal. Catholic universities have played a pivotal role in preserving and advancing knowledge. Renowned thinkers such as St. Thomas Aquinas exemplified the synthesis of faith and reason, contributing to the development of a sophisticated intellectual framework that builds the cornerstone of Catholic intellectual tradition. The establishment of the International Federation of Catholic Universities in 1924 is a landmark in the commitment to fostering intellectual and spiritual growth on a global scale during a period past the long pity of war and anticipating the imminent disaster that would barely arise 15 years later. In response to the changing global landscape in the early 20th century, leaders of Catholic universities recognized the need for collaboration and solidarity. The idea of an international federation that would unite Catholic universities across borders took shape, culminating in the establishment of what was initially just FCU, Federation of Catholic Universities, and what is now IFCU, the International Federation of Catholic Universities. The founding members envisioned an organization that would promote dialogue, exchange, and cooperation among Catholic universities worldwide and create a framework for peace. Today, we celebrate the future of Catholic universities by honoring the tremendous career of a venerable institution, celebrating 100 years of work to foster a closer entente between the various Catholic universities, as mentioned in the letter sent in February of 1924 to the rectors of existing Catholic universities in 11 different countries, from Leuven to Lublin, Beirut to Angers, Paris to Tokyo, and Washington to Rome. And this letter was sent by two of the founders, the visionary Father Agostino Gemelli, rector of the Università Sacro Cuore in Milan, and the first rector of the recently created University of Nijmegen, the philologist Monsignor Josef Schreinen. The Constitutional Assembly finally took place at Leuven on August 11, hosted by the rector, Monsignor Ladeuse, who would become the first president of the Federation. With the blessing of His Holiness Pope Pius IX, who found it most fitting that Catholic universities should meet to find appropriate means for conducting all their activities through generous cooperation, and this is from the letter sent by Cardinal Gaspari to this founding assembly. The first meeting was a success, gathering representatives from 15 universities. All the universities that were invited were either the rectors were present or their delegates. And these were the universities that were present from across 3 continents, from Antwerp, Leuven, Lille, Milan, Nijmegen, Lublin, Santiago de Chile, Paris, Lyon, Toulouse, Fribourg, Washington, the Catholic University of America, Tokyo, Sofia University, and Beirut. Global, collegial, and a recognized platform of educational diplomacy, the Federation has built a reputation as a key voice in the advocacy of Catholic higher education and recognized in the Apostolic Constitution Ex Corde Ecclesiae for its specific role. The legacy of IFCU is multifaceted, encompassing its commitment to academic excellence, social justice, and intercultural dialogue. By fostering connections among member institutions, IFCU has played a crucial role in facilitating collaborative research and joint initiatives. This has been particularly relevant since the inception of this prophetic institution, in the words of historian Michel Jarton, because the idea to set up the Federation grew from the awareness of Father Gemelli, of the visionary Father Gemelli, of one of the most important challenges that Catholic institutions were faced with at the time, which was that they needed to be affirmed as centers of excellent scientific research. The Federation developed out of the urgent need, amongst other things, but this was absolutely central and crucial, out of the urgent need to support the development of the Catholic Research University and to convey this very deep connection between aimed at the expansion of the borders of science, of values-based science, with the activity of the universities, of Catholic universities. Along its 100-year journey, IFCU has served as a platform for sharing best practices, nurturing a sense of global solidarity, fostering the creation and development of regional associations in Europe, in North and South America, in Africa, in Asia, and working with them in the joint commitment to the pursuit of truth and wisdom. In addition, as a platform for the development of Catholic institutions, IFCU is dedicated to promote social justice, reflected in its efforts to address global challenges and promote inclusivity among its widely varied more than 240 members. Through initiatives focused on sustainable development, human rights, and social responsibility, the Federation has demonstrated a commitment to an articulation of the principles of solidarity with the attainment of the ultimate telos of science, the improvement of humankind's estate as formulated by Francis Bacon in some centuries ago. Furthermore, IFCU has been instrumental in fostering intercultural dialogue, recognizing the importance of understanding and appreciating different voices. That is why our strategic development plan, evolving since 2018, is called A Global Voice for a Common Future. By bringing together scholars from different backgrounds, women and men, the Federation has contributed to the creation of a more interconnected and harmonious global academic community, supporting as well the mainstreaming of gender equality and celebrating the often underrepresented contribution and leadership of tremendous women scholars for the development of our institutions. And yet, we do not live in the best of worlds. We are not Pangloss in the middle of the Lisbon earthquake in Candide. This is not the best of worlds. The splendor of our times, marked by extraordinary breakthroughs in science, cannot obscure the misery of poor access to quality education, inequality, and the systemic environmental failure for which universities, too, are not without responsibility. The times are hazardous, yes, and for Catholic universities, they are particularly challenging. Allow me to single out, amongst the many issues, 4 main problems, issues, queries. The first, I would argue, is cultural. A crisis of religious values, particularly in the global north and in Western societies, that seeps from narratives about the Church's outdated irrelevance vis-à-vis the great problems faced by humankind, from environmental failure to technology on the loose to social and cultural values. Catholic universities emanating from the heart of the Church are bound through thick and thin to a specific intellectual tradition, one that centers on the revelation of the truth emerging from the deep reality of Christ, that as such has inspired the commitment to freedom, critical spirit, the defense of human dignity, social justice, precisely the values that cultural context often fails to recognize in our specific value proposition. The second stress element is financial, of course. The drop in recruitment, decrease in public funding in some geographies, failure to inspire donors in others. A perceived lack of prestige of humanities programs constituting the core around which the Catholic University has evolved is relevant in some areas of the globe. But the opposite is true in other spaces. A perception that these same programs speak to economic elites, a sort of a new leisure class that does not require the vocational impetus leading to successful employment. In addition, digital transformation demands sizable financial investments in platforms and software, hardware and specific data, sound and image infrastructure. Clearly, the technological cloud is not a staircase to heaven, but a door to financial hell. As one past president of the University of Chicago once wrote, of the needs of a university, there is no end. At the heart of the mission of the Catholic University is the search for truth that is also a statement of trust. And this is the third crisis element, the crisis of truth and trust, with generative AI prompting manipulation, deep fakes, and in addition, a growing critique of evidence-based science in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Catholic universities are not immune to student and faculty pressure, donors' demands, and ill public perceptions that tie in to another global trend, the lack of faith in university leaders and in the university more generally, owing to poor judgment or an inability to assert bravely and consistently a vision with moral clarity at a time when public discourse has forsaken nuance and complex situations are numbed by fear of consequences. The university is at the heart of a debate on the soul of our societies. Finally, allow me to point out high-value employment disruption. This is very recent. Data disseminated earlier this week suggests that in developed economies, roughly 60% of high-value generated employment will be disrupted by 2030, and that 40% of university curriculum will be obsolete by 2025. We must prepare for these challenges and be ready to celebrate what we do well, but also to have the courage to anticipate change and act accordingly. But to every cloud, there is a silver lining. Even though the 4 forces of disruption are dire, they do not forecast the end. While Catholic universities are affected by adverse cultural wars and the consequential crisis of truth because our campi do not operate outside the murky realm of history, they are also safe spaces of collegial interaction and dialogue, places of transcendence where the cultivation of science and the fight for access to quality education for all is set to continue and promote a renewed capacity to aspire. Our value proposition, in a valueless time perhaps, is structured around the inalienable defense of dignity, human and that of the planet. We are places of discomfort because the aspirational goal derives from dissatisfaction, as Pope Francis told the students gathered at the Catholic University of Portugal for World Youth Day. Dissatisfaction at inequality, inequity, defacement, and abuse. We seek social justice, but this is a slow work that requires also good storytelling. To change who tells the story and how it is told is to change the world. What is so different in the moment we live now is that the quality and the impact of multiple stories are changing. Boosted by new media platforms, new narratives are shared and, most importantly, listened to. What is different in our moment, I argue, is not that people are speaking and challenging us, but that we shall be better if they are listened to. Financial stress, employment, curriculum disruption require renewed creativity and ability to do things differently. And we have done this all along. And this can be done in managing, distributing, attracting new streams of students. Rethinking how things are done, perhaps inspired by the formula of Herman Melville's Bartleby the Scrivener and his assertion, I prefer not to. That is, not to follow the trends, but to be clear about our purpose, to opt strategically to do things otherwise, in the spirit of the tradition that informs us. And to do this, be it by bringing as well new practices, wisdoms, epistemologies perhaps, engaging in dialogue. Rather than simply reproducing accepted knowledge, it is necessary to recuperate the task of understanding education, not simply as instruction, but also as a practice of interference, of dissatisfaction, as Pope Francis says, in the dominant organization of knowledge. Through its commitment to academic excellence, social justice, and intercultural dialogue, IFCU has made a lasting impact on higher education globally. As we reflect on the journey, we recognize a continuum of intellectual and spiritual growth that continues to shape the world of higher education in profound ways. The Federation stands as a testament to the enduring relevance of Catholic educational principles and the transformative power of collaborative engagement on a global scale. Our prefect, Cardinal Mendonça, has written of the recurring importance of the future in Pope Francis' encyclicas, of his future-oriented theology. There is a Portuguese expression, and you'll allow me this nationalist venture into this speech. I've already made one with the reference to Brazil. Now it's a very Portuguese expression. It's the term saudade, which means longing. So there's this Portuguese expression. It's almost impossible to translate because it's longing, but it's more than that. And it was one that the Pope conveyed in his address in Lisbon to the students. He inspired them to have saudades do futuro, a longing for the future, saudade do futuro. And I quote Pope Francis, "We are called to something higher, and we will never be able to soar unless we first take flight. We should not be alarmed then if we sense an inner thirst, a restless, unfulfilled longing for meaning and a future, com saudades do futuro." And here, in addition to the saudades do futuro, do not forget to keep alive the memory of the future. We should not be lethargic, but alive, quote end. Along these 2 days, we celebrate a federation rich with saudades do futuro. We begin a celebration that shall end in Guadalajara at the IFCU General Assembly in 2025. We are here today beginning a journey that will take IFCU to celebrate in Africa, in Nigeria, in Washington, in Sydney, in Sevilla, honoring the past to move ever more persistently to build a better and brighter future for Catholic higher education around the globe. Thank you for your commitment to Catholic higher education. Thank you for your presence, and let us continue to walk together.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Isabel Capello-Agil and Professor Francisco Bonini, for your words, your inspiring words that I'm sure will nourish and inspire our discussion and reflection during these 2 days. As you have seen in the program, we have a very interesting and encouraging moment and sessions. We'll have roundtable later in the morning, and then also tomorrow we have 2 different workshops. But for the moment, I propose you to join us for a coffee break during 30 minutes, and after that I'm convinced that Cardinal Mendoza will join us and give us a very inspiring speech regarding the relation between Catholic University and society. So I invite you to follow our voluntary, the student of LUMSA, who will be with us during the 2 next days. They will bring you to the coffee break room, which is just 2 minutes away from this conference room, and they will then bring you back to the Aula Magna to continue this inaugural session. Thank you very much.
Spazio qua.